Hello, everyone. Today I received a question and it says this. Hi, Aruna. I just realized I've been making every decision in my life based off the opinions of my parents, my teachers, and a bunch of people other than myself and what I want. I feel completely lost and I don't even know what I'm actually interested in. I know I just can't continue doing things I really hate doing. It's leaving me exhausted and disconnected. Where do I start now? So I'll repeat the question because I'm sure a lot of people out there are in limbo situations where they want to leave a job or a relationship or a place, or they have, an epiphany that, oh my goodness, I think I've been going down this path and I know, and I need to go down another one, and I don't know what that other path is yet. So I'm going to read the question again. Hi, Aruna. I just realized I've been making every decision in my life based off the opinions of my parents, my teachers, and a bunch of people other than myself and what I want. I feel completely lost. I don't even know what I'm actually interested in. I know I just can't continue doing things I really hate doing. It's leaving me exhausted and disconnected. Where do I start now? And so, what I'm feeling from this question is a fed upness, an exhaustion, a fear of the unknown, a maybe irritation or anger with people outside of the self, and maybe an irritation and anger with oneself for having gone down a path that wasn't really congruent with who they are at a deeper level. And what I'd like to just say initially is just be very gentle and kind with yourself. This is part of life. We change, we have realizations, and sometimes we need to go down paths to form a clarified idea of where we want to go, because how do we know? How do we know what path to go down on if we don't try a few? That gives us clarity. So if you think you want to do something, try some different things and you'll soon realize whether that works for you or not, or you need to tweak it. And the thing is, you mentioned parents and other people. They mean well. They want you to be happy, and they have an idea of what would make them happy, and then they make the mistake of projecting what would make them happy onto you, not realizing that you're a unique, separate individual with unique gifts that maybe they can't even see. And this is quite common with parents, is they have a dream of the way their child's going to be, and maybe they have had a dream for themselves and that didn't come true, so they'll want that dream to come true for their child so they can live vicariously through their child. Or maybe, they just want to show off to the neighbors and say, my son or daughter does this, or they have a fear around their child's survival and they perceive that their child cannot survive in the world unless they do specific careers. Maybe, I see this with certain groups, in ethnic groups, where there's a fear that one needs to be better than everyone else in order to succeed. And so in certain cultures, they will channel their children into what they perceive as very successful careers. I know in India, sometimes you don't have much of a choice. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a guru, you can be it's it's you can't just go and be an artist very easily or do whatever you want. And sometimes they'll want you to follow in the footsteps of a lineage, and there's a beauty to that. But it comes from a place of care a lot of the time. And so if we're frustrated with our parents or our loved ones, know that they mean well, but ultimately, as part of our growing up process, we need to individuate. Individuation ideally would happen early on, but when you're dealing with people who are fearful or have a sense of lack or have an ego that needs things to be a certain way, then that individuation process can sometimes be thwarted or slowed down. And so I really pray that the gifts and the cities of the children are nourished when they come into the world immediately and are seen and noticed. And I've talked about this, certain groups are just put into boxes. Oh, you're autistic, there's something wrong with you, or you need extra help. And children are so sensitive to what they hear and the feedback of their parents. It's so important to be encouraging. It's so important to be open to your children and even to your friends and let them discover themselves through their own inner process and not interfere with that. And you might have to manage your own fear and anxiety, and that's yours to manage. So letting go of any anxiety around what other people are doing will enable other people to find themselves. But even if we have supportive people around us, it can still happen that we don't know. We don't know what direction to go in. And that can be just due to distraction and noise in the culture and in the environment, or even just stress in the nervous system. The easiest way to discover your path is to return back to who you are. And the easiest way to return back to who you are is to enter a still state, to practice some stillness during the day, to move away from the thoughts, good or bad or neutral, into a space that's separate and beyond them. And in that silence, the answers will arise. So, setting aside some time for silence, setting aside time to go into nature for walks or to do some exercise, and not time where you have to figure things out. We tend to come up with knowing who we are when we're not trying to know who we are, when we give ourselves space to just be. And in the spaciousness of being, the universe will communicate very subtly with you. You are designed by me to do this now. And it's a whisper, it's not a scream. And so outside people might be screaming, you need to do this. And why don't you do that? And other people have done this and it's worked. And oh, your time's running out. And you figured it out yet? And it's loud. Or as the universe says, you need to do this in your own time. You love that. Didn't you enjoy that as a child? It's a subtle voice. It's a quiet voice. What is designed for you to do is spoken to you softly, not loudly. It's a soft knowing. It's not a scream. And so if your mind is screaming for you to do something, or your parents are screaming for you to do something, or the culture is screaming for you to do something, that's maybe a path that you might go down, but you might have to do a U-turn on it. So it's just easier rather than doing a path and UE, path and UE, path and UE, to just block it out as best you can, return back to yourself and listen. And you will discover what path is yours. And you are designed for a purpose, and there'll only be one you. There'll never be another you. You will never be repeated. Nobody can compete with you when you're being yourself. Nobody, there is no competition when we're being oneself. So it's essential to figure out who you are, and maybe there's blocks to figuring out who you are because of all of the noise. And so journaling can help, journaling, and then noticing, oh, these are just negative thoughts. That's a voice from my mum. That's a voice from my dad. That's a voice from my best friend. That's not me. That's what they wanted. That's not me. That's what he wanted. And kind of like pulling it out, separating it out. That's not me. This is me. And the people that tell you to do things which are not right for you are being of service because you kind of figure out who you are by noticing what feels off. And so those people are contrast providers. They say, do this, and then you imagine doing it, and you're like, that doesn't feel right. But if they haven't offered you that idea of being that, then you don't really get that clarity. So we don't need to be bashing other people for giving us ideas. We just need to understand people are going to drop things into our awareness, and we can experiment with how do we feel, not how do they feel. How do we feel about that? Do we want to start that business? Do we want to move to that country? Do you want to be with that person? Do you want to marry that guy or girl? Do you want to, you know, experiment with your sexuality? Do you want to, you know, go on that diet? Do you want to do that special exercise routine? Do you want to do cold plunges? Do you want to go to Burning Man? Do you want to go on a world trip? Whatever it is, just how do I feel about doing that? And then also knowing there may be blocks to wanting to do it around fear or just trying something new, but you can notice that and then try it anyway. And so always coming back to yourself. Nobody knows you better than you. Nobody can answer these questions other than you. You can't outsource your life to other people to figure out. I know that we would like to do that. I know that we just want to give up autonomy to an organization or to a partner or to a parent or a loved one or a friend because we don't want to maybe figure it out for ourselves because we don't trust in our own intelligence to know. And we have to realize how powerful we are in order to realize who we are. And so this is really a journey about returning back to knowing how powerful you are. And once you realize, oh, I'm really powerful, then doors will open and ideas will open to things and paths that you couldn't have perceived before you knew you were powerful. And so it's a returning back to your natural confidence. It's a returning back to knowing everything's going to be okay if I'm myself. And it's about a little bit blinkering. It's like horses wear blinkers when they're in a race because they won't win the race if they're worrying what other horses are doing and they get distracted and freaked out. So they put these masks on the horses, and then the horses that are wearing masks, they can just focus on the goal. And that's really important in life because everybody's just looking over their shoulder, checking what everybody else is thinking about what they're doing. How many followers do I have right now? Is this going to work? Oh, what do my parents say about this? And that just slows you down, trips you up, takes you off path, makes you copy other people. And you can't copy other people because there's only you. And the world and the universe wants you to be yourself. It doesn't want you to be somebody else. It doesn't want you to create what somebody else is creating. It wants you to create what you are going to create. And you can't really figure out that unless you really are grounded in your lane and forgetting about the noise. And this also can be seen with swimmers. Some swimmers, they slow down because they can see what's going on with the group, and then they lose the race because there's a tendency for people to want to stay with the group. And that comes from, a primitive way of being where if you exited the group, you might be eaten by a wild animal, so you stay with the group. And that's in our nervous system. We want to stay with the group. We're like sheep. We're like, we don't want to venture out. And so if you're designed to go in a very fast moving lane, and then other people are maybe reflecting back to you, oh, don't go so fast, come, don't, you need to stay with us, then it can get really, really confusing because you might dumb yourself down in order to stay with the group. And maybe people get jealous because you're moving faster than them. Maybe people start kind of planting seeds of doubt because you're moving fast and that reflects how they're not moving so fast. And some people are designed to move very fast. And that can be triggering for other people. So if you have a big idea and that can be triggering to even friends that were your friends when you weren't having big ideas. And they're like, "Who do you think you are? That's not going to work." But you're not like that, So people's reaction to you says things about their own insecurities and woundings. And especially if you're going to put yourself in the public eye or you're going to do anything on a larger scale, you really need to be grounded because you will get a certain amount of hate. And that just is due to the childhood wounding. Childhood wounding causes people to hate other people, to want to troll other people. And it doesn't mean that we don't have compassion for that. We just have to not let it derail us if that is our path. And so don't try to be something that you're not. This is really important. You know, if you're a wolf, don't mistake yourself for being a sheep. You're like a wolf wearing a sheep's costume, thinking that you're not powerful. No, you're a wolf. People are designed different ways. Some people are extreme. They're very extreme practitioners, but they feel that they can't be extreme because that's triggering for other people. If you're designed to be an extreme practitioner, be extreme. The world needs maybe that for some reason. So there's different gunas in nature. There's a destructive guna, there's a creative guna, there's a maintaining guna, and we all have combinations, but sometimes certain individuals will channel a more kind of destructive, fast moving guna, but then other people will try and shut them down. And why? I mean, that's just the way they're designed. We can have some people that can be very triggering to other people, but they're designed to trigger other people and they shouldn't dumb themselves down. Obviously, we all need to respect one another and not harm one another. That's not what I'm talking about here. But just allowing everybody to just be themselves. And when we step into a world where everybody can just be themselves, then everything just moves so much smoother. We get better everything in life. We get companies that are founded by individuals that are so unique and passionate and creative. We get the best parents, we get the best friends, we get the best companies, we get the best, the best, the best, the best, the best when everybody's just doing what they're designed to do. And so when we're changing directions, sometimes we can look to where we have been, whether it's an old job or an old relationship, and then just hate it and say, I hated that person and I hated that job, and that was a waste of time and that was a wasted relationship, or whatever it might be. And you can't move into what your new path is smoothly if you're holding on to hate about the past. Have gratitude for it. It's a clarifier. It provided contrast. It enabled you to have this energy come through, really understanding now who you are, which you couldn't have had that force of energy come through in such a strong way if you had not experienced something different. And that can be like pulling an arrow back, doing what really you didn't feel like connected to. And then the energy of doing that, if you let go of it without hate, will shoot you in the right direction. And so it can actually create a massive impact. It can shoot you down a new path. It can really speed you up. Some people do, I'll call it the wrong thing, but it's not the wrong thing. You know what I mean? They'll do the wrong thing. And because they did the wrong thing, then when they do the right thing, it's like whoosh. They do it in half the time and they hit the target, bang, bullseye. And they wouldn't have hit the target and they wouldn't have had the bullseye had they not had the previous experience. So it's all unfathomable. It's all working out for you. The universe creates situations so you can learn and co-create and understand things. So we just relax. We don't know why. We don't need to know why. We we don't need to demand a certain timeline or an outcome. We just know, oh, the universe is going to take care of my path. I just trust. I trust that my past had a purpose. I trust that my future has a purpose. And let me just be here now, take care of myself, eat good food as much as I can, stay hydrated, stay with my stillness practice, with my exercise. Maybe we have a talk therapy if we can, if that's available to us. Do what brings us joy, what we're good at, what others reflect that we're good at, and everything will be okay.